does it sound chopped up? I just wanna sing clearly. I just want to sing clearly for you. I just wanna sing clearly for you. What could it be that's hampering my voice? I just need a blow right through for you. Hopefully you hear me clearly now. Don't you know that I feel like it's important to be heard? If I just tune in, I can. You can hear me now. Is that right? I just love to sing these melodies. You know that it's important to be heard. What else can I sing right now? I'm doing this a cappella, a cappella, a cappella. What can I say? I've tried so hard in my life to express what's on my mind. I did so many times. When I was a teenager, I went online. I grew up with computers because my father was an engineer. By the age of 14, I was already socializing with people in message boards and chat rooms. And when I made a friend, I fell in love with her. I loved the way that she cared for me, treated me with so much love. Her name was Jay. And I loved her so much. She told me stories about what she went through. Very sad stories that left me at the age of 14 having so much information about trauma that I could not understand. Because I was not her and I did not go through what she went through, but I can empathize with her because she often shared about her feelings of depression. We were both Mariah Carey fans. One day, I went to a Mariah Carey concert. I think it was a Today Show concert, a free concert. And I saw Mariah Carey live performing. I got her autograph and took tons of pictures of her, all at the age of 14, 15, around that time. And on my way there, I noticed that there was a whole lot of different type of people. People I hardly seen before. And when I went online to express what happened on that day, because somewhere along the way, on my way to the concert, I think I got lost for a while. Ended up in a different station than the station I was supposed to be at. And I told a joke online that she took offense to. And after that, she told me she didn't want to be friends anymore because what I said was offensive. And it sounded like I was racist, but I was just telling a joke because I was like, wait a second. Because I felt like, for some reason, when it came to Mariah Carey, I felt like there would be diversity when it came to her fans. And when I arrived at that station, I told a joke about, oh, I know that this wasn't the station because there was this amount of people in there. And I was like, I was not thinking any bad way about it. That was just my 14-year-old self finding a way to describe how I thought about being lost. But apparently she took offense to it. And how would I be racist, right? If I was friends with her and she was Caucasian mixed with Mexican. So I felt very, very sad when she told me that she didn't want to be my friend anymore. I cried for hours, for days, and I felt so depressed at the age of 14. I lost a friend, like the first friend that I made online. And it was heartbreaking. That was like the worst pain I ever felt at that age. The pain of never being able to speak to somebody that you loved again. That was painful, extremely painful, all because I said a joke that she didn't like. And so what I realized is that I didn't really have close connections in my life at the time. I really wanted to connect with people online because I wanted to feel what it's like to communicate with others and to share love. But it seemed like all I spoke about was about depression and sadness, pain, and even thoughts of suicide. Eventually, the message board got deleted, probably because they noticed that things that I was talking about were too serious for the internet. And I don't think that people understand what it feels like to be me. People don't really get it because they don't know what it feels like to feel like you have no one to speak to. And then, by being in the message boards, making friends, and then having all those friendships being cut, just ended by the swift deleting of the message board. It's like it left me partially fragmented. And that wasn't the only time I got separated from people. I also got separated from people in the 6th grade when I got left back because I failed one class. And everybody else went on to the next grade. And I stayed in the old grade with new students that I had to relearn how to be friends with. What a traumatizing experience that is. Being left back, left behind, treated like I don't deserve to be around people that I grew up with. That was in the 6th grade. At the age of 14, when I entered high school, I was a huge Mariah Carey fan because I grew up listening to Mariah Carey and the song Hero. So as I went on from grade to grade, at the age of 16, I started drinking alcohol because I had extreme shyness. I was extremely quiet, and people didn't understand why I was so quiet, but it literally felt like an extreme fear of even communicating in person, or even like not even knowing how to communicate. I always had this issue with being able to speak. That's why when I went online to the message board, I was happy to make friends and communicate through writing, texting, in chat rooms and message boards. It was like something that, it was like having glasses for my communication abilities. You know, just like how people may need glasses to be able to see. It's like having an outlet like a message board was like having glasses for my voice, for my way of communicating. So through high school, I struggled a lot. I struggled because I was extremely quiet. It was hard for me to get the help that I needed or get tutored or anything. And that led to me not being accepted to any colleges that I picked in the 3 colleges that I had to pick before I graduated. Yeah, I was denied for all 3, all because my grades weren't good enough. And I think a lot of it had to do with just not being able to communicate my needs or even identify them in the first place. So by the age of 16, I was already drinking wine coolers and Colt 40s and huge beers and stuff. All because had such anxiety, and I was exposed to it when I started hanging out with other teenagers and other people around my age range after school, when I went to a place called Fordham Plaza in the Bronx. I used to hang out there. And one day, I managed to get a new skateboard because I was getting paid to get tutored in my high school. So eventually I was able to buy a new skateboard that I put together it was a mini logo, Powell wheels, red bearings skateboard with, I think it was probably independent trucks, but I'm not exactly sure. Don't remember that part. But that was my first complete professional skateboard. And at the age of 16, 17, right? I had that board. I let a lot of people ride it, and I shared it, and I was kind to others, very trusting and generous. And one day, somebody decided to just go somewhere with it and never give it back. I was heartbroken. And at the time, I had a boyfriend. And this boyfriend helped me to get a replacement for my skateboard because I was very distraught over what happened. I was so distraught to the point I started to think homicidally. And I really wanted to kill that person at that time. I had so much rage, so much anger for what they did, because that was almost like the first time anything bad like that happened to me. And the boyfriend at the time, he was able to get them to give me a skateboard back, but it was an old, used up skateboard with venture trucks, old wheels and everything. And I was like, okay. But I was not happy with that because I went from having a new, complete, customized skateboard that I afforded with the work that I did by going to the tutoring program all those weeks and months of that year, only to have it stolen by a person that I was sharing something of mine with. So after I got that skateboard, I just felt like the enthusiasm just left me. I couldn't do much with it because it was old. The grip tape was used up. Everything was used up. I still brought it around, but it was just so old and messed up that it was like, wow, I can't believe I'm riding everywhere with this. And that was the only board I had at the time. That was a skateboard that is not from Toys R Us. So one day, because of being online, I came across a person. And that person was an older woman. And something terrible happened. Really terrible. And I probably shouldn't really mention too much about it because it's not good. She was like 20 at the time, while I was about 18, 19. Yeah, 18 going on 19. And I was about to enter college. And what happened when I went there was now looking back, it was a complete violation because I got violated several times within a short period of time. And I remember even when I went to their place, they said, oh, I'm gonna corrupt her. And she had a girlfriend too. But that girlfriend was nowhere in sight when all these things took place. So I was very young, 10 years younger than her. And by the time I went to college, I think that things just got so slow, and I was not doing well for some reason. I ended up going to a community college for about a year and a half. And then I realized that I just couldn't function at all there, because I think I was drinking way too much. I was drinking vodka by that point. It went from wine coolers to vodka, all by the age of 19. And I don't know, the drinking age is 21, I think, or maybe 18, I'm not sure. But it's just weird that I was able to buy alcohol at such a young age. Because how is it that the drinking age is 21, yet I had vodka by the age of 19? Because I remember I turned 21 when I went to the other college where I was scammed and violated also there, in the process of trying to find somebody, a romantic partner that fit and that was compatible. Yeah, lots of violations happened in my life. I was still very quiet, but eventually I became an evangelistic Christian because of the college I went to, the first one. They invited me to go to Bible study, and then I was all Christian and stuff, and then by the time I realized my I started going to the drinking anonymous, or like, like the place where they try to stop drinking. That Christian club had that, and that Christian Bible study group had that, and it's like they kept on talking about how we shouldn't be drinking like that. So then for a while I had this wait, I think there's music here. Hello? Yeah, so it's taking a while for the music to go down, so we may have to do a part 2 to this segment of this story. I'll continue on with the next part about how, after college and everything. Alright, I'll see you in the next video, part 2. Strength of Mind Shamanic Oracle, signing out. Actually, I think the music went down, so we're going to continue on right here with the part 2, the second segment of this video. So as I was saying, so I was evangelistic Christian before I graduated. Actually, before I transferred, because I didn't graduate from that local community college. Yeah, I found that I was struggling a lot in that college. I felt like I could not understand the math at all. The math was extremely hard. I don't know what they were doing. I think it was some type of algebra or some type of extremely difficult math that I just could not understand for the life of me. And I was failing that math class like every semester, and then I was so tired and so busy, and I just don't get it. Like, the way that I was feeling in college was just terrible. I think it's because I had hangovers, and there was times that I went to like a party, and then I think I was pretty much dehydrated, and I did not know that that's what I was going through from the extreme alcohol intakes, and it was all because I was so shy, so quiet, that I just felt like I had to drink alcohol in order to feel some sort of relaxation and ability to communicate. It's like my whole body was just shut down for a very long period of time. And it's like my body just needed something to take the edge off and lower my anxiety. So yeah, I had an issue with drinking alcohol all throughout since the age of 16. And so by the time I transferred to the new college, since I was evangelistic Christian, that pretty much made it so that people didn't really like me like that. They were repelled by me because I would try to make them a part of my Christian, the Christian life. And at some point, because I was also being, in the Christian Bible study group, they kept using the Bible to tell me that being quiet is like being a coward. And so for a long time. Then I started to try to talk more, and because everybody had an issue with me being so quiet, they didn't understand what I was going through. I even heard at the time by that person, "Are you autistic?" And I said no, but all throughout my childhood, there was many counselors that told my mother that I may be autistic on the spectrum. And my mother was like, "Nah, she's not on that." And it's because she had a belief that just meant that they're thinking that I'm retarded. And obviously I'm not retarded. That's just a very bad way of assuming that I don't know anything or don't know enough. But that's not really what it is. It's just I had an issue with speaking and communicating because I had like an extreme anxiety or nervous system response to communicating. So my nervous system couldn't actually vocalize or verbalize things. But that doesn't mean that I didn't understand or wasn't observant of everybody. I just couldn't really that part of my body just wasn't working like everybody else's was. So for a long time, having these issues really was affecting me a lot through school, through interactions with many people. And so by the time, at a certain time, I started, because of all of the Bible study, programming that I went through, telling me that if you're quiet, that means you're a coward, and all of that stuff. I started talking more, trying to bring people into Christianity in college, and then I was just pushing people away, repelling people. And at a certain point, I noticed that some of my roommates were smoking in the apartment complex. And so I spoke about that in the meetings. And then they got so scared that they actually, at some point, conspired to ask me if I wanted to smoke. And it was not just like the regular cigarette smoke. It was cannabis. Even though cannabis was pretty much illegal at the time. And when they did that, it was just a way to make it seem like we were bonding. But really, looking back at it, I feel like it was a manipulation tactic, just to make it seem like they are friendly, so that I wouldn't tell any more of their business to them. Yeah, but the things that I was going through at the time, these were things that were kind of like I was being controlled by some type of force, right? Because of the Bible study group, which was influencing the way that I showed up around everyone around me. So at a certain point, I kept reading the Bible to the point that I realized that the body is the temple. The body being the temple is like your own church. So technically, I don't have to go to church. I just have to have that one-on-one connection with the source myself. And so I started to get into psychedelics and started to get into crystals and gemstones, lucid dreaming. At some point, after going through a lot of parties from all the things that were going on in college, there was a time that I almost died in college, because I got alcohol poisoning and found myself in the hospital room because I passed out. I blacked out. Blacked out so bad. I was so dehydrated to the point I almost died. And after that, I just did not feel drinking anymore. Because it's like when I was drinking this time, I was actually being peer pressured. Because think about it, I was in Bible study group. They were telling me not to drink. And I was doing my best not to drink. But I was being pressured, peer pressured to drink. Even though in my conscience, I felt like this is wrong, I shouldn't be drinking. But it's like I was still being pressured to drink. And so that thing happened. And after that, I was like, I'm done with this. I'm done with hanging out with these, with partying and all that, because it's just not healthy for me. And by that time, I was completely, my health depleted to such a degree that when I was in school, I was so tired to the point that even when I showed up at work, I was doing less work than usual. And then they fired me. And then I was out there in college, all alone, nobody to trust. And without money, my money was depleting. I was trying to apply to jobs, and they didn't call me back. So I was there with no money, just the money that I saved up from the part-time job I had as a work-study in the admissions department. And I was struggling on a few $1,000s that I had saved up that I used to pay rent, because eventually all the students got evicted because they found out that students were smoking cannabis. And somebody was caught with cannabis. And all the students got evicted. It was like I was out there in college, away at college, and I was alone there. And I had to find a way to move out on my own. I ended up finding a room, and in this room, it costed about $400 a month at the time to rent the room. I was like, okay, I think I could handle this with the amount of money I have in my pocket right now. And so, so I started renting that room. Then eventually, I noticed that it was extremely freezing cold in the winters. Brutal. So cold that I could see the fog from my breath in the air. when I was trying to sleep. So then it was like all throughout that time I was struggling. I was freezing cold going to school. And I was just uncomfortable and didn't have internet either. So you could imagine my grades were suffering because of that. And so, I don't know where this story leads, but it's just so much. It's so traumatic. So, people don't really get how traumatic my life has been. And it's just, so yeah, I ended up failing a class because they decided to turn classes into hybrid classes, where it meant that I would have to do online classes. And it's like, with the online classes, I didn't have internet, so I failed the first time. Then I tried again, and then I was like, then I started to like fight for my rights because I was like, yo, I don't have internet. And then I was given grace, to like hand in my homework, even if it was like more late than usual, because of the fact I didn't have internet. So then I ended up graduating like a whole year after everybody else because I failed a class. It's like the same thing, like repeating the same thing that happened to me in the 6th grade, where I failed one class and had to stay a whole year longer. And by the way, when I was renting that room, eventually the roommate that was in that apartment showed me the utility bill, and it was so high that I was like, wait a second, I thought the utilities were part of the rent. And so then I was like, oh no, because I did not have the money to like just give him that money to pay that. Like, that was just too much. So I told somebody in the school, and they told me not to pay them and to just move, because it's not right. Like, so then I stopped paying rent altogether because they lied. They did false advertisement to get me to move to that room, only to show me that the utility bills were never paid, and it was like over $1,000. So then I got evicted because I didn't pay rent, but they wanted me to still pay, even though they're the ones that did something false advertisement. And they try to put that into, they try to charge me, even though I was out there alone in college, trying to handle everything myself while my family was in the Bronx. I was trying to spare them any type of stress. I was trying to handle everything myself. So had to move. I had to put all my things into a storage unit. So I put it there, started paying storage unit rent every month. Then I moved. Then I was homeless for about a day. But because I was hanging out in the neighborhood, just walking around, I met a guy, a male, that since I knew him before I got evicted, I saw him again, and he helped me to move my stuff to the storage unit, as well as gave me a place to stay. But then as soon as somebody from the college found out that I was with that guy, they called somebody because they knew that they had a room. And so after they called, then I negotiated with that person to pay rent for about $450 this time. So while I was there, my mental health was depleting so badly because I started getting insomnia. A whole bunch of stuff was just not right, because I was not doing well. My body was not healthy. I was so tired still. And it's just insane. The type of lifestyle that I was going through and how I had to survive all of that. So when I was there, I was paying every month. But then eventually I ran out of money. Yeah, I was like, oh no, I can't give them anything else because I don't have anything left. So then all of a sudden, within 2 months, I received a stipend, a miraculous stipend out of nowhere from the school for about, I think it was $2,000. And then that allowed me to have money to keep paying that person $450 after that. And then I graduated, but I didn't even go to the graduation because I was tired and also kind of like, so I never even celebrated my graduation. Talk about how that was just so rough, going through all of that. Like I was in the military club too, and I couldn't even show up to the plan that I was having, because I was the captain of the military club at the time too, and I was supposed to get everyone together to do like the rifle moves and all that, the marching. That did not even happen, yo. I was too tired. I was drained. I was extremely burnt out. The type of stress I was going through. Like all that time when I couldn't pay that person because I ran out of money, and also because I never got a call back for the jobs that I applied to. That person was harassing me every single day for the rent money. And she was yelling at me, trying to make me feel guilty for not being able to pay her. I was there alone in college, in college. I was about 22 or so. Yeah. And so eventually I graduated. I decided to go back home to live with my mother. Still had my things in the storage unit. Then eventually I paid my friend from the place I was renting because he lived there with his mother. And I paid him enough money, for him working to help me move, and also for his gas money, because that's all I could afford. And so he helped me to move all the rest of my stuff in his van, SUV, and so I brought that all back to my mother's house, right? And my room became so cluttered with all my things, my guitar, my keyboard, my clothes, my documents. I had my laptop with me. And that's pretty much what it was. My instruments and my skateboard and stuff like that. And so my place became so cluttered. I also had a TV too, that I got. And I could not function for the life of me in that room. I could not function at all. I became so depressed because of how traumatizing that experience was in college, being evicted and also being sexually violated and also harassed, and also having to pay rent, and also not being fired and all that. Like, I was traumatized. I was extremely traumatized. And I was burnt out and depressed. And then also, to add insult to injury, I was so tired. And at the same time, my mother started harassing me to get a job. Even though my body felt so done. And so it was just impossible for me to get a job. But then I ended up still having to go to something called the Back to Work program. Oh my, the music is starting again. Let me see something. Hello. So I'm back. That music was taking so long just to stop. All right. So not sure where I left off, but I think it had something to do with how I had to move and I was burnt out. Moved back home. Was burnt out. Then I started the Back to Work program, which I had to go to this program every week, probably every day until I found work. I was just applying to so many jobs until I started working at a human resources place for about a week or so. I don't know how long, but for some reason I noticed that when I was there, I started to get symptoms, kind of like schizophrenic symptoms. Like, started hearing voices and shit. And also started to like, it's like my brain was just like, something was happening that it was just not right. Like, I just felt some type of irritation in my body. And so yeah, like, it was not good. So then after that, like, the job stopped, and then I don't know how I got out of there, but I ended up then switching to like a parks and recreation job that was seasonal and was being paid over $1,000 a month. It was a full-time job, and they made me in charge of opening the door, the lobby, every morning. The job started at 7 o'clock in the morning, but I had to keep on waking up at 5 because it took me about 2 hours to get ready. So then it was like I was doing that for a while. Then after that seasonal job stopped, I decided to get into going to therapy because I was like, wait a second, I gotta take care of my mental health, because now that I have time to do something, I'd rather do that. Because when I was, in college, I also got into another message board, the Michael Jackson message board. And people there were telling me I should see somebody because I was very suicidal, and I expressed myself a lot, trying to communicate a lot of my feelings online. People were trying to help me, but also a lot of people were annoyed by what I was saying, how I kept on talking about suicide all the time. Like, they didn't like that. And so it was like, after the seasonal job, I decided to take my mental health more seriously, because I was just listening to what they were saying about mental health. And so started going to therapy twice weekly. And it seemed like the therapist at the time started telling me I should just find work and things like that. So then I was like, for about 2 years, I had unemployment because, of course, seasonal job, and then it stopped, right? So then I had to get unemployment, and that lasted about 2 years. Then I started running out of money because of the unemployment stopped. So then she started talking about, just find work. And then me remembering how being in a job environment was, I was like, I can't do that anymore. Gotta do something that's more where I'm in my own space. So then I decided pet sitting would be an ideal job for me, right? So then I started doing that. At first, I was always constantly using all the money I had from unemployment on MetroCards till I started running out of money, right? So then I decided to get a bike, and then I started biking to therapy. And it was like a 20-minute ride on a bike. So one day, my bike broke down and I couldn't make it to therapy. And my therapist got a bit pissed off. because I didn't make it to therapy, and she was annoyed because it was like she didn't get paid. So it was like, so then I was like, okay, might as well pay her when I'm ready to pay her, because at the moment I was still kind of low on money, but I ended up paying her about a week later or so. So so then after a while I started to get really stressed because I wasn't able to have like a regular job. I was just working with pet sitting, and I was like, it's like it was in the beginning of the whole journey of starting to do pet sitting. And I was feeling so stressed because of that pressure of like having to find a job and stuff like that. And so I started to feel like something was wrong with me. And so I started to see a psychiatrist. Then I tried to tell them that I was not doing that well with focus and stuff. So then I was thinking in my mind I probably had ADHD or something like that. But instead, that person diagnosed me with schizophrenia. Well, schizoaffective disorder. Because they felt like I was also moody at the same time, but also like it was hard for me to speak. My ability to form sentences were kind of skewed and stuff like that because I couldn't quite speak like normal, like other people, so then they thought it was schizoaffective disorder. So then I ended up going to the mental hospital like twice within a year's span. And I was being drugged to death. I mean drugged to oblivion, I ended up gaining like 50 pounds in the hospital within a year. Within 2 weeks, actually. Like each time I went to the hospital, I gained a couple of pounds. One time, I was so stressed that I was doing self-harm. And they found out that I was doing self-harm, so I was involuntarily admitted to the hospital because of my suicidal thoughts and self-harm. And I was trying my best to be successful, but it just was not enough for some reason. And so while I was at the hospital, I met somebody, a patient there, that was also a therapist too, but she told me that she was going through mania and that I should apply to Social Security. So that's what I did. I tried applying to Social Security. And at first I was denied. And because of that, then I told my cousin. And she told me I may be on the spectrum too, like autism spectrum. So I had to wait a few months to get diagnosed for that. And it took about maybe a year or two for me to get a formal diagnosis. And then after I got that, then I was able to get assistance through a grant to be able to have a place of my own. While I had this place, I was still dealing with burnout, by the way, right? So I was trying to get my things together, trying to focus on my work, focus on my like completing my portfolio, completing the things I wanted to complete, right? And they had me here, they hired a worker, right? The first worker was extremely slow, you know, and they had to spend about 48 hours here. They had a full-time job, basically. And I was kept indoors for hours and hours, days on days. Not allowed to go outside to do anything. And plus that, at a certain point, I ended up getting the flu. I almost died. I was in pain. And on that day, that person was nowhere to be found. I had to go to the store on my own, to the Whole Foods store, to get elderberries because I did some research on how to heal a flu. And I tried to make my own soup. And that's how I was able to survive. I also had to tell myself affirmations like, I'm alive, I could see my family, I could meet my family, I could talk to my family. I had to tell myself so many affirmations in order to survive because I almost died. And that person was nowhere to be found. And so that person left because I spoke to them about my experience in college and why it pushed me to end up in this place. And for some reason, I think that person took offense to what I was saying, and they left. Never showed back, and I had the flu at the same time, so got the flu. I feel like I was probably poisoned without my knowledge. So I survived the flu. I drew a painting that said, I'm alive. And as I was painting, I was self-regulating and soothing myself by painting. When I got into that frequency of creating something and painting and affirming to myself that I'm alive, the flu was leaving my body like a miracle. I was surviving. And I healed from the flu. Next thing I know, somebody else get hired 2 days later. Well, a few other people that only stayed like a day because they probably thought I was like not disabled enough and they didn't want to work with me, so they left. They didn't stay. So next thing I know, somebody else get hired, and this person decides to love bomb me, give me gifts, make it seem like they're a good person. So then I express my gratitude. But then this is where the nightmare began and lasted about 5 years. And still after this so-called nightmare, I still deal with the effects of it the daily torture, mental torture. What I had to do in order to regain my strength after such torture. They don't want this to come out, but I have to speak about it, about my journey to being self-sustained, stable. They did not care if I died. And so here I am with the tools I've accumulated from all my work, diligent work, daily work on myself. This is proof of the fruits of my labor. The fact that I actually did work on myself. All of this is a reflection of the fruits of my labor. So how can anyone call me unsuccessful or lazy or anything if I've accumulated this much stuff from thinking and taking action on what needed to be taken action on? What I went through was not easy. But what I went through has led me to being able to verbalize this history. And maybe, in a way, what I'm talking about right now can inspire or just bring more awareness to the struggles that some may have, especially my struggles, and how I am doing the best I can. I'm fighting every day, doing the best that I can. This is still not the full story, because there's still a lot of details that I have not spoken about like the reason why I decided that it was probably better for me to be supported, to have my own place. It was not just the fact that I suffered when I was away at college. It's more than that. It's also the fact that my mother lived in public housing. It's also the fact that my father passed away when I was young, and the house that he had was foreclosed upon, and I had no house to live in. I had to share a room with my sister. And also how hard it was to even have structure in there and focus on my graphic design. But I was in a skateboarding community where I volunteered my skills and did flyers to bring all the skateboarders together, the female skateboarders. That's why the skateboarding community is so large right now, because I actually put efforts into bringing people together through my flyers. I was volunteering for the organization for the female skateboarders. I was volunteering for a lot of artistic, creative organizations too. I was doing the very best that I could. I was being my best self. It's just traumatizing, the things that I went through when I moved here and had to deal with the torture. Something that seems pretty much like human trafficking, because like, why is it that it had to happen to me? That's another story for another day, but this is as much as I can say right now about my journey. I'm on the autism spectrum. Even though I may be able to verbalize things more clearly now, it was not easy. It took days and days of developing my communication abilities. And this is just another way that I'm developing more, by expressing out loud to the internet. Because for some awkward reason, it's hard for me to express myself to my family or to my friends like this, because my story is so long and it's deep and traumatizing, and I can't just speak all of this to just every person I meet. So instead, it makes more sense for me to express it one time through a video like this, where I'm just speaking my mind and singing and just expressing my thoughts, because this is my channel after all. If you want to tune in to me, you can, by listening, pressing like and subscribe, and sharing, especially to those who you know may be able to support me more on my journey. Think about it, I'm putting myself out there. I should not be afraid to be seen for who it is and what I am, I am who I am, so there's nothing I could do to change that. It is what it is. Like, I'm somebody that is doing my best to have what I need. And at this moment, some of the things I need is, I need more funds so that I could be able to travel more, so that I could be able to get more tools, so that I could do my job better. Because I can't just be having random jobs, Like, I tried to do different jobs, and I realized that it was just burning me out and taking time away from other things that I could be doing that I would rather do. And it's actually stressful realizing that it's like I can't easily like do certain things for people. Like I'm constantly getting people wanting my services or wanting me to help them, you know, like recording them or like through video or audio, because those are some of the tools I have for myself. But first, you know, like I'm doing this because this is part of my job as a person on this earth, is just to express myself and put myself out there. I have graphic design skills, and I can't quite afford my graphic design software, so definitely donations help so that I could be able to afford the graphic design software so that I can improve my video qualities and maybe even create themes for my videos and, you know, like introductions and stuff like that. You know, because I really do want to improve the quality of my videos so that they can be spread out more and you know, so that I could really get the help that I need, the support that I deserve. Because it's not easy. At the moment, my utility bills are, you know, they are suffering right now, okay? I'm not gonna lie. I'm gonna keep it 100. I'm gonna keep it 100 because what I went through, the torture, it led to a lot of health issues. For a long time, I was burnt out and anemic and vitamin D deficient. I had to buy tons of supplements. I had to do a lot of research. And the research was clogging up my computer. And it's making me appear as if I'm irresponsible when really I've been taking responsibility in the best way that I could. And it's crazy to be like, wow, like I'm not good enough. Like, listen to my previous video. I was talking about my suicidal thoughts, about how I felt like everything I do is just not good enough. Like apparently all the work I've been doing is not good enough. Because I still owe utility bills, you know, payments. And I've been using the law to try to slow them down or get them lower, you know, and it's just, I have expenses and I still have to live my life. I still have to, you know, I'm in the skateboarding community, snowboarding community. I'm an autistic athlete. You know, I'm an athlete, so, and an artist, creative artist. And it's like I'm doing my best, but apparently my best is just not enough for this world, it seems. So I'm bringing my thoughts out there so that you can pay attention. And if you feel that I deserve to be supported, please feel free to support me in whichever way you can. I have a P.O. box and a PayPal where you can donate or even send me gift cards or anything to my P.O. box. I'm open to receiving as much as I can possibly receive that's for my highest good. Anything that you can give towards me definitely helps. It definitely helps, because I am somebody that likes to invest my money on things that can help me to just be better at what I do. So hopefully you understand and can understand that and give to me what you feel is right. Thank you for listening to me, and come again soon, please. And like, share, subscribe. Strength of Mind, Shamanic Oracle. Signing out.